This figure sucks ass. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting much from a core class hot rod, but I was expecting a lot better than this. Starting off with this crappy vehicle mode, look at those gaps. I mean, it almost feels like they didn't try. I mean, with the other core class figures, there was a lot of tucking, turning, all that stuff. I mean, look at core class Soundwave, but this, I'm all fine with panels, but then when they have this tendency to have bad QC, it's terrible. Makes me appreciate the Studio Series figure way more. But then you get to that robot mode, and honestly, I don't hate it. I think the robot mode for this figure is fine. I honestly like the anime style proportions, and it kind of could be like a Micromaster type hot rod. But, you know, the biggest problem with this figure are those legs and those awful gaps. You know, this figure isn't fun with the terrible QC, so this is probably like, honestly, hate to say it, 1 out of 5. Was not expecting to give a 1 out of 5 ever, but finally earned it. Oh well. I think everyone likes Skywarp. I mean, and we were all expecting a core class Skywarp. However, this figure is kind of a letdown. I mean, amongst the core class figures, it's not as bad as things like Hot Rod, and not as good as things like Iguanas. So why is it so bad? Well, the paint job is fine, everything is nice. Then you get to that accessory, and that's what kind of bothers a lot of people. You see, he's a Seeker. He belongs with some null rays. And, you know, that's kind of important. Like, these figures had a big gimmick about this whole each one comes with a piece of a weapon and then it all combines, and I think that's really fun. But the fact that none of the other core class figures even did that, and it was kind of forgotten upon after the first wave, I mean, like, come on. If you gave this figure some null rays, it would have been a lot better. But sadly, this figure is just kind of bland. It's not as good as the original Starscream. So sadly, I gotta give good old Skywarp a 3 out of 5. Hopefully Thundercracker will be better. I don't think anyone was expecting Legacy Iguanas to be such a good figure. I mean, starting with the motorcycle mode, we don't often get motorcycle figures, and it looks awesome. I mean, Pretenders are a very touchy subject with Hasbro, and the fact that this was handled with so much love and care is amazing. Then we get to that awesome lizard robot mode, and I feel like this is a great portrayal of the Pretender figure. You know, it's the robot mode Pretender shell with a vehicle mode. I feel like that's the way to go with these things. And, you know, I really think this figure's main negative is the weapon. It looks kind of goofy, but what I personally did is I 3D printed a new weapon, and that really makes the figure look great. It has some awesome posability, looks great, feels great, and I can't wait to see some more Pretenders. I mean, I have Bomb Burst already, and that Skullgrin looks amazing, and the leaks and rumors, 5 out of 5 for this, and 5 out of 5 for these new Pretender ideas. Kickback is one of my favorite G1 characters for no particular reason. I mean, solely because I had the toy. But honestly, the Kickback toys I've collected after that haven't really been anything special. And sadly, this figure isn't anything special. I mean, I've mentioned before how much I love the repaint, but I don't really feel like this mold itself does anything too crazy. I mean, the bug mode is fine, missing a mouth, but then the robot mode looks very, very good. But it doesn't really have that much good posability. I mean, the gun is nice, and those weird little sword accessories it comes with is good, but I'm more happy that this figure exists because of what this means. This means we're getting more Insecticons. This means we're getting our deluxe Insecticons repaints. I mean, the fact that this figure exists opens so many doors, but for the figure itself, I gotta give him at least a 3 out of 5. I wish it could have been a 4, but he kind of stinky, honestly. RC is probably one of the most controversial figures of Legacy. I mean, first off, let's start with the alt mode. So accurate to Prime. I mean, yeah, it looks a little different, but I feel like it's a good new take on the Prime vehicle mode. I mean, it's a good-looking motorcycle. We don't get a lot of motorcycles in Transformers nowadays. But then you get to that robot mode, and what the heck did they do? I mean, I personally like it. I'm okay with it. But a lot of people don't like the new face, the design, and all that. First off, there's some parts forming with it, that being the wheel. You could either keep it on the back, it could be a weapon, but I like to personally do the Road Rocket look and put it on the back like that. And, you know, I personally like this figure. I like its aesthetic. I like that it does something new with the look, but a lot of people don't like this new change. But I think we should embrace it. And I will give this figure a 4 out of 5 for being new. and awesome. Skids was a figure that a lot of people were excited for. I mean, he comes with a very, very nice alt mode. I mean, that car mode is stunning. Only thing that bothers people is those empty gaps in the tires, but this finally completes your G1 Deluxe cars for the Season 2 cast, and it looks great with the rest of them. I'm really happy to have this figure, and, you know, the best part of this figure is probably the transformation. It is super fun, and, you know, then you get to that amazing robot mode. The only negative for me personally is those gaps and the lack of weapon storage. I mean, he could hold all of his guns everywhere, and Skids was always the background character, but the fact that he is such a posable, fun figure just shows how much love is put into Legacy. I mean, the fact that Skids is such an amazing figure is amazing. So I gotta give this figure at least a 4 out of 5. I wish he could give him a 5 out of 5. Legacy Drag Strip is a much needed upgrade. I mean, the Combiner Wars figure came out how many years ago? And 1, you can't find it anymore, and 2, it kind of stinks. I mean, when you look at the figure itself, it's not bad, but you can clearly see it's not replicating the G1 figure. And that's not always a bad thing. I mean, this figure does do a couple things differently, and I think it turns out good. I really like the color scheme. I had to add some caps on there just because they were a little bit ugly, but you don't even need them. But the biggest thing is the robot mode. I really love it. And my only gripe with this figure, and it's not that big of a gripe, is I don't like the gaps. I mean, all the gaps on this figure are very ugly, and it does have a very similar Combiner Wars transformation style. I won't be showing the arm mode just because I'll do that in my Menasor review. But overall, I really like this figure, and I highly recommend him. This is definitely a highlight of Legacy Wave 1, 4 out of 5 for Drag Strip. Our first Voyager of Legacy was Legacy Bulkhead, and this figure is very interesting. First off, it is our second Prime Universe figure, and this does a weird departure. Instead of being a Prime vehicle, it's more closer to animated, but I guess that's fine, collaborating two worlds, it's all good. And it looks great with a bunch of other figures. But then once you get to the robot mode, it gets a little weird. So it actually has a very fun transformation, no parts forming needed, and the weapon storage with it is amazing. But the robot mode is definitely where a lot of people complain. People think this is very weird. I mean, look at him. It has a weird head, big chest, and that's pretty much it. I mean, everyone was expecting a more bulkier bulkhead, but this is very a boxy bulkhead. And I personally like it. I think it looks fine. I think the whole figure itself is fine. I like the accessories, but I do see the flaws with it, and I gotta give this a 3 out of 5. First off, this is my Kingdom Blaster, and this figure rightfully deserved to be re-released in Legacy. I mean, look at him. It's such an awesome figure. I mean, when you have him next to your Soundwave from the Netflix line, you know, this figure makes that figure look like trash. And, you know, I have a very big opinion on that figure. And this figure also comes with a cassette. You know, it has the Voyager price, comes with the cassette. That's awesome. And, you know, it goes great with your pre-existing cassettes. So that's very awesome. And then Blaster itself, fun transformation. It is a great transformation. And a stunning robot mode. I mean, I clowned on the Shattered Glass Blaster a little bit, but I think this figure is honestly plastic perfection. Looks great with Soundwave. I wish they were a similar height. This one's a little taller, but I guess that's toy accurate. I honestly love this figure, and I highly recommend him. This is totally a 5 out of 5. The G2 Optimus Prime design has always had a soft spot in my heart, and I honestly really like this figure. It's a neat update from that old G2 design. First off, I love the truck cab. It looks really good. It has a nice... I just love this type of truck. I just really associate it with the Bayformer movies, which are my childhood. But the one negative I don't like about this truck is the legs. I don't like that it's just a copy of the Earthrise figure. But what it does better than the Earthrise figure is that trailer. The trailer is way more better and more playable than the original one. Then you get to the robot mode, and this is where you see the shared parts of the Earthrise figure. Well, it looks fine. It does have a lot of paint apps that aren't really filled in, and it is missing some details that the G2 figure had. Overall, it's probably a 4 out of 5. I gave him some painted eyes, but if this had more accessories and paint on it, then I'd probably like a little bit more. That's why I got Toy Hacks. I'm gonna be completely honest, I'm not much of a sticker person. They're my least favorite parts of LEGO sets, and they look terrible on Transformers. Except when they are Toy Hacks. Now, I never talked about Toy Hacks before, But this is something new I've recently started buying, and they really help enhance some figures. And they helped enhance this figure. Laser Optimus Prime with toy hacks is a must buy. Yes, it can be a little pricey, but I honestly feel it's super worth it. I mean, compared to the original color scheme and the dull trailer, you get that nice spray painted grunge. Even the inside of the trailer has stickers in it. Honestly, every piece of this figure is covered in stickers and it looks amazing. I highly recommend it. It gives this figure so much more character, so much more color, and I think that this figure really needed. Honestly, this really turns this figure into a 5 out of 5 piece of plastic perfection.